Welcome to Study Break, a recurring podcast featuring discussions of sports, music, TV, movies, and more. Today, we are happy to have Rowan Miller, Mikey Morales, Professor Maria Boyd, and Nazirah Miller here to talk about exploring the MCU, favorite movies, powers, and storylines. Please enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Rowan Miller, and we're back for another episode of Study Break. So for today's discussion, I have my friend Mikey,
Hey,
my other friend, Professor Maria Boyd,
Hello.
and my friend Nas.
Hey.
And today's discussion is going to be about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or just Marvel in general.
Great.
So for today's discussion, we have three different questions. So for our first question, what is your favorite Marvel film and why?
my favorite Marvel movie would be The Black Panther. And I just like it because like the cultural, the style, and the music, they have a great soundtrack.
That's a really interesting question. What is your favorite? Because as a film professor, part of my brain, the Professor Boyd part of my brain wants to say what the best one is, in my opinion. But then the best and my favorite are two different things. So I'll just answer as Maria. My favorite Marvel movie is Captain America, the Winter Soldier for two reasons. One, my favorite stories in the comic books are the Winter Soldier stories. I love Bucky Barnes with my entire heart. And then also as a Gen Xer, I love that the film is in the style of like a 1970s political thriller, very on the streets, grounded kind of storyline. Even has Robert Redford in it, who is from 1970s political thrillers. So I think that's why it speaks to me as much as it does. It's definitely my Marvel comfort movie.
Yeah.
For me, I don't have just like one favorite. I have a couple, and those are all the Spider-Mans and Black Panther because Spider-Man to me, he's just so relatable, and I'm a Tom Holland girl. So and Black Panther, like Chadwick Boseman was amazing. And Michael Jordan,
Yeah.
the whole story was just brought chills to me.
Rest in peace, Chen.
Rest in peace.
Peace. My favorite like Marvel movie, purely script-wise, I would say Infinity War. Just unbelievably well written. I love the story. I love how it's paced. I love everything about it. As for the one that's like part favorite, probably Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Awesome Mix is still one of my most used playlists on Spotify. I love the music in that movie.
It's great music, and they do the needle drops so well.
Like, I could go on for hours about how good the mixes are. With our next question, which Marvel character has the best powers, and which Marvel character's powers would you personally want?
I'll take that question. Ooh, I was back and forth on that question. But I would say Captain Marvel has one of the best powers in the MCU universe. I think a power that I would want would be WandaVision, having that chaos magic. I think she's one of the most powerful characters. And just seeing that scene in Endgame where she almost like destroyed Thanos, I was like, go girl, go, you got this. And but then Thanos like had everybody targeted with all his missiles from his ship. But she almost did it. But yeah, I think she has one of the best powers, or one of the powers that I do want to take.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Thanos' ship because Kevin Feige, who's the head of Marvel, was directly asked who is the most powerful Marvel character, and he says Wanda, specifically for that reason. Like she was going to be the one to take Thanos down. She was the most powerful until the ships did all the missiles. Now, the character with the best power, you said, or favorite power,
Yeah.
I have to agree here, Captain Marvel, but that's my general superhero answer of the best superhero power. It's flight. Fight me on it. It is always going to be flight. Now Wanda can, create reality. She can. That's incredible. I love that, and I love watching her story. I was late to the Wanda party, but once I read her House of M in the comics, then She's incredible. I would not want any of the Marvel powers because in my mind, what they have to go through to get them, I would not want to have to go through. Or they're born with powers because they're Asgardians or whatever. And that's just not relatable to me because I'm not an Asgardian god. So I will
Yeah.
say thanks, but no thanks on the power and Captain Marvel with the flight.
My answer for both of those is Wanda, because I'm biased. I love powerful women, and she's
Yes.
such a powerful woman, and I would have her powers without the dark hold though. Like that's a
Mm.
no-go for me.
Yeah.
She just, I don't know, I love the position they put her in, and they put her in such, they brought her in at such a time where I feel like she was needed. Like to me, a lot of Marvel characters, like we could have done without them. Like they could have come at a later time, but I love how she came in and where she came in and how she played her part in the MCU.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, can I say something?
Yep.
Yeah, and like I also saw in Black Panther where she also used her powers to make her fly. Like when she had to go
Mhm.
help her teammates, she
She
flew
knew
from
everything.
yeah, she had to fly out and go and help them. So I
Mm.
thought that was a very cool part that she was able to
I
do.
love their minds. And
Ooh.
understand the whole process behind it, but one day I hope to. Like I just think that's when people see their worst nightmares. Oh my god, she's so cool to me.
Except for Steve, because his worst nightmare had already come true. He'd lost everyone. The ice.
Steve.
Which is another power that I would not want to have.
Right.
As for best power in the MCU, think you can't go wrong with Doctor Strange.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
that guy has a really amazing set of powers, can go through multiple dimensions, all the wizard magic, all that stuff. Like perfect. But if I'm going to be listening to my heart,
Mm.
I want the Spider-Man powers. I'll care about like the Uncle Ben stuff that I'm gonna have to go through, or canon events, whatever. If I can swing from buildings, if I can climb buildings with just my fingertips, if I have like crazy superhuman strength, superhuman perception, I'd say that's worth it. I would take that in a heartbeat.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Spidey is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
As for our next question,
Mm.
this is where we can get some hot takes. This is
Okay.
where it can get heated. Which Marvel character had the best storyline?
Ooh, I say the Black Widow has one of the best storylines. And just how it all started when she was young, how she was like taken and she was trained to be like an agent and to join the Red Room and all the things that they did to her. Even like part of her body too. Like she can't even have kids. And I thought that was very like sad to hear. And like she can't have her own family. And like throughout the entire MCU, like she didn't have like a husband or wife or a partner and not any kids. So she kind of died a hero.
She had a hero, but I think the Avengers were her family.
Yeah.
And I think in Endgame, where she's still holding down the fort, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the old base, she's still taking care of them, right? And I loved how she kept everyone connected. She became kind of the mama hen
Yeah.
of the Avengers, and I liked that. I agree with you that she got such a great storyline. I know that it's controversial that the Black Widow movie was made and released after Endgame, but I'm glad that we got that backstory. And now so many people coming to Marvel through Disney Plus and watching the shows and movies in storyline order. I think that's for the next generation. I'm really glad that that content is there. My favorite storyline for a character, again, as Naza said, I am biased. I love Captain America, but I really, really love Steve Rogers, right? And it's little skinny Steve who's going to do the right thing, living through the depression, living through his parents dying, standing up to bullies. I like anyone who's going to stand up to a bully. And he always knew what was right because he fought for the little guy. And I think that that will always put him in number one in my book.
Okay, I've changed my answer to this one.
Ooh.
Spider-Man. I feel like he has the best storyline, like sort of the same premise as Wanda. He's lost everyone that like he's loved. Like he lost his uncle, and then when he got that father figure back in the form of Tony Stark, he had to lose him too. He had to lose him twice which is even more heartbreaking. And then he had to see his aunt die. He had to know his best friend and his girlfriend. They had to forget all about him. So he eventually had nobody at the end. And it was just so heartbreaking seeing him have to overcome all of these things by himself, to me, at least.
I feel like the best like storyline to bring back to what you were saying is Tony Stark, because the development to where Tony Stark dying at the end of Endgame, he went through a lot of growth to make that moment hit as hard as it did. He was a completely different person between Iron Man 1 and Avengers Endgame. Like Tony Stark at the start of the MCU towards the end are completely different characters, and just his growth as a character throughout the whole franchise was incredible to me.
I think it's really important that we showed respect to Tony Stark's storyline. I'm glad that you said that. And for anybody listening who studies literature or film, and you think about the philosophies associated with character development, the Tony Stark storyline maps on the philosophy of the hero's journey perfectly. And I believe that was done on purpose. He is Frodo. He is Luke Skywalker. I mean, his story is exactly what the philosophy of a hero's journey is. And I liked how flawed he was, and how I liked how he couldn't do it on his own. I like that he needed a team, he needed a found family in order to achieve his goals.
Yeah, he needed the Avengers more than
Yeah.
anyone really,
Yeah.
and just being able to create his own group that were similar to him or had similar capacities for greatness.
Yeah.
I think that's also just incredibly important to how he develops as a person.
I like how you not only see him grow as Iron Man, but you also at the same time see him grow as Tony Stark, as the billionaire playboy philanthropist. Like the first movie, he was with so many girls, and then Endgame, he's married on an acre in woods with a daughter. Like that was complete 180. But go ahead, Tony, I see
Yeah,
you.
yeah. There was a very big arc and change between start of the MCU to him saying "I love you 3000."
Oh,
Yeah.
There is a "I love you 3000" would not have happened
Yeah.
with old Tony,
yeah.
and just the amount of change he goes through is what makes me absolutely adore his storyline and why I think it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like I noticed like in Endgame and Avengers where he lost Tom Holland, Peter Parker, and how he also felt a loss for him too. Like he needs to bring him back. He's
Yeah.
he's
Well,
sad
he's
about
able to
it.
achieve time travel
Yeah.
to get Peter Parker back.
Yeah.
And as devastated as I was to see Iron Man pass away in Endgame, it's kind of the way it had to happen, because I believe he's the character who couldn't have moved on had he lost people. Like the rest of them can move forward. I don't think Tony could have recovered from having to see his family fall. Yeah, because remember in the Wanda vision, his nightmare was surviving when everyone else
Yeah.
passes.
And also like at the end of Infinity War when Dr. Sage was saying like this is your own chance, like having that going in like the back of your mind, like he's not gonna forget that. Like
He knew.
You know, and the I'm gonna rope it back to that point again, but the Tony that we met at the start would not have ever made that sacrifice.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
He would have thrown several hundred people under the bus before even thinking of that.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah.
it's Aven-
I also feel like that, how do I word it? I feel like that growth came along with like a lot of the people that came into his life, like him, his relationship with his daughter and with Pepper. I feel like he would have never really had that type of relationship if Peter never came into his life.
Yeah.
Peter brought out another side of Tony that we never saw, where he wouldn't really care about somebody in his own way. He did care about Peter, even though he didn't really, I feel like he didn't really want Peter to fight in Civil War, but he just needed him there for like just in case something went wrong, just
Yeah.
in case we needed the backup.
Well, and I think his relationship with Steve fundamentally changed him too, because in Civil War, it's pretty clear that Steve was the big brother because he grew up hearing about how great Steve was and how he couldn't measure up. And then getting to fight alongside him, having that rift, and then coming back together, that I think that adds to what you're talking about of this complete, circular story of growth and redemption.
At the end of the day, like as you were saying about Black Widow, like she grew like a family with the Avengers.
Yeah.
I think they were all like a big family. They were like more of like siblings.
They
Yeah.
all needed each other.
Yeah.
Because at the end of like they all did lose their families, and a lot of them like really their trauma they've brought their trauma with them through everything that they've went through, and the only people that could relate to them in that sense were the Avengers. So I feel like a lot of times that's what they trauma bonded a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they, definitely like with the struggles they have, they
Yeah.
kind of like connected
Pour
with
the
that.
candy in the bowl.
Like many of the Avengers have been through something,
Yeah. Yeah.
no matter how large or
Small.
anyhow. That is about all the time we have. So any last things we want to say before we sign off?
Well, I want to thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to talk about Marvel and to wear my nerd hat instead of my professor hat. So thanks for giving me that chance.
I have a hot take.
Ooh.
I already said it though. People don't like the Marvels because they don't like women and they don't like seeing women in that position of power.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
Because the Marvels was a good movie.
Yeah.
And it was about 3 women from 3 different backgrounds that they just all come together at the end of it anyways. And they just, I don't know, like I can't really explain it. I feel like as a girl seeing that on TV, like that was so cool to me.
Yeah.
But a lot of people won't relate to that, but that's just,
I think they will though, and you just said it. You saw it on TV. I think that this next generation coming up, regardless of their gender, getting to see these movies and shows in the order that the story makes sense, they're not going to have that same resistance that some people who grew up on Tony Stark, they were just missing Tony. And so nobody was going to fill his shoes. So the Marvels couldn't win, right? But I think this next generation coming up, they're going to love all the characters the way y'all loved all the characters growing up. I really believe that.
and that's what we need to do. We need to separate all of the Avengers. Stop comparing them to each other. They're all different people with different lives, different powers. They're not the same.
Yeah.
One person is not going to do what Tony Stark did, y'all. Like, we got to get over that. He's Tony Stark.
Yeah. It's such a great movie. I loved it.
I do too.
Before we sign off fully, do we have any final words?
I am Iron.
I could do this all day.
Avenger Assemble.
Excelsior! And we are
You've been listening to Study Break, brought to you by the New Media Lab and the Office of Athletics and Campus Engagement. Today's hosts and guests were Rowan Miller, Mikey Morales, Professor Maria Boyd, and Nazirah Miller. Our producer today was Musilla. Our production coordinator was LaShonda Stevens. Musilla prepared our title cards and edited this episode. Victoria Callbreath and Samuel Larson designed our cover art, and Indigo Frazier composed our theme music. Our co-executive producers were LaShonda Stevens, Raymond Porras, Yagna Rangavachala, and Musilla. I am Shakia Hutt, your announcer for this episode. Special thanks to Director of Athletics and Campus Engagement, Allison Gleason, and our faculty advisor, Maria Boyd. If you have an interest in participating in the New Media Lab, contact the Office of Athletics and Campus Engagement or reach out to us on Instagram at DCCC_New Media Lab. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video. Thanks for listening, and go Phantoms!